Don't underestimate the immense value of starting small, starting simple, because the important thing is starting now. It's okay if it's small. It's okay if it's simple. Absolutely everything starts small and with a degree of simplicity. And you can make it bigger and more complex later as you go once you build confidence and momentum. But you don't get the gift of momentum without the work of the start.
Welcome to Breakthrough Mode, the podcast where we intentionally get into the driver's seat of our lives, shift out of monotony and mediocrity, and step on the gas towards becoming the person we were always meant to become.
Hello, and welcome to Wednesday in the Wild on the Breakthrough Mode podcast. I am your host, Megan Bauer. Thank you so much for joining me and pushing play on today's episode. This is Start Week, and I have been so excited about Start Week. I love fresh starts. I love watching people take a step into their own fresh starts. I love the energy of my own fresh starts. I love facilitating a fresh start. I love starts. I do. It's one of my favorite things. And if you were to come to me with some idea that you had, all of my excitement and enthusiasm and optimism would be behind you to get started as soon as possible. So this week is super fun for me because this is what I am encouraging you to do. On Monday, we talked about this desire on your heart, and whatever it is, whether it's a way that you want to live, whether it's a habit that you want to establish, or a project that you want to start, or something that you want to engage in, whatever it is, whatever has been on your heart, I am encouraging you to start this week. Start it this week. And when I say start, that doesn't necessarily mean something big and wild and crazy. It doesn't mean a complete life change overnight. It can mean that, but honestly, don't underestimate the immense value of starting small, starting simple, because the important thing is starting now. It's okay if it's small. It's okay if it's simple. Absolutely everything starts small and with a degree of simplicity. And you can make it bigger and more complex later as you go once you build confidence and momentum and you are more in this continuation phase than the starting phase. But just like they talk about, rockets use up a significant portion of their fuel on takeoff and then less so as they orbit in space, just getting over that hurdle of starting can feel so hard. It really can feel like such a huge wall, a huge block, something in your way. And the thing is that you get to lower that wall, you get to lower that block, you get to make it as small as possible to get the start, to just get started. Because here's the truth. We celebrate the milestones, right? For my 200th episode, I planned a party to celebrate the 200th episode of the podcast. And I ended up having to cancel it because I got pneumonia, which was so dumb. But I planned a party for the 200th episode to celebrate that milestone. On episode 1, however, I did not plan a party. I didn't hardly even tell anybody about the podcast on episode 1. And I allowed that to be a small start for me. Not telling anybody about the first episode of the podcast lowered that barrier of entry to me. It made it feel more doable. It made it feel less scary. So that's what I did. So whatever you need to do, however you need to set this up for yourself, I am encouraging you to start. Now, Wednesday in the Wild is usually about me and how I am facing and tackling whatever it is we are working on for the week. And since this week we are working on Start Week, I'm going to tell you about my starts. So first of all, I feel like I'm a fast starter, but it takes me a long time to get to that point of decision where I truly, fully decide to start the thing. I am in this like marinating, hesitation, doubt, overanalyzing phase for a long time. But then once I hit that switch, once I hit that trigger that I actually decide to do it, it can absorb me pretty fast because I love that energy. The thing that I want to point out here, though, is that I can very easily stay in this like incubator stage where I'm hemming and hawing over it and feeling into the doubt and feeling into the fear and feeling into the excitement for a long time. I can do that for a really long time because there's no fear in there of actually doing the thing. There's only fear of what could be if I did do the thing, but that's a really comfortable place to be. And this, I think, is the place where we often get stuck. We want to do the thing, we want to establish the habit, we want to make the change, whatever it is, but then we've got all of these stories that fill us with fear or fill us with doubt or tell us why we can't do it or why we're not capable or why it's not the right time or blah, 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 blah. And then we don't do anything. We just stay in that quagmire of indecision of I want to, but I don't want to. And nothing changes, nothing happens there. And here's what I have to say about that. I get that. And the longer you stay in that place, the longer it's going to take for anything to change. The longer it's going to take to get momentum, the longer it's going to take to move forward. And being as we are a people who really like instant gratification, really like that Amazon delivers next day or same day or, 2 days at worst, we want things to happen quickly. But we are the ones that slow it down. We are the ones that make it take longer by our hesitation, by our doubt, by our hemming and hawing, and by just not doing the thing, not trying the thing. And of course, we don't want to be wrong. We don't want to screw up. We don't want to waste time. So instead of jumping in and potentially being wrong, potentially screwing up, and potentially wasting time, we definitely 100% waste time not trying, not figuring it out, not moving forward. I have done that a lot, a lot, a lot. And I've often reflected on the podcast and I realized that the reason that I was moved to action to publish that first episode when I did is because I love a new year. I love a new year like I love fresh starts because it's a brand new year. And I knew that if I was going to do the podcast, I wanted the first episode to be within the first week because then it would feel like the podcast started when the year did. And so that moved me to action because I had this very real countdown of if I wanted this to align with the beginning of the year, I needed to get myself in action. And that worked for me. It often does work for me. I will do crazy things to get things to line up the way that I want them to line up. So that worked for me. But if you look backwards, I had this idea to start the podcast months before that. I could have started it 6 months before I actually did. But instead, I let it hang out on my heart and in my head and didn't do anything about it until I was like, okay, if I'm going to make this align, then I better do something so that it can align. I needed that new year, that approaching new year to kick me into gear and to kick me into action. But even now, as I start things, as I launch programs, as I do this or that or whatever I'm doing, it takes me a little bit to actually get started, to actually take the first step. It'll live in my head, it'll live on my heart for weeks or months before I actually do the thing. And every time I actually do the thing, I always wish I had done it before. I always wish that I hadn't spent so much time hemming and hawing and feeling into doubt and feeling into fear, that instead I had just done the thing, that I had just gotten started, because momentum is so, so valuable. I always, always want the momentum, but I kind of want the momentum without starting it. I want the momentum to just be there, but you don't get the gift of momentum without the work of the start. And next week, we are going to talk more about momentum and continuing and how incredible that is. But it starts here. You can't have that without this. This is a prerequisite to the momentum. And I don't want you to look back at the end of this year, because now we are more than halfway through. I don't want you to look back at the end of this year and consider all of our themed weeks and be like, man, I wish I had started that on start week. I wish that I had started that last week of July, which was a weird time to start things because, I mean, it's not the beginning of the month. Maybe it was the beginning of the week if you started it on Monday, but it wasn't the beginning of the month. It wasn't the beginning of a quarter. It wasn't the beginning of the year. It didn't align with any of those things that I would have looked for. But that doesn't make it any less valuable, because at the end of the day, all of those things are arbitrary. They don't matter at all. It's just fun. And I really like that. I really enjoy the beginning of the week, the beginning of a month, the beginning of a year, the beginning of a quarter. So I totally get that. But if you delay for any of those arbitrary beginnings, you're delaying for no reason. Because I've always found the things that are on my heart and in my mind, they don't go away. They don't. And I always, always wish that I had started sooner. I always wish that I had started sooner. And now I'm in that place where we are about to publish the 300th episode. And I'm in that place where I'm looking back on that December before I published the first episode. I'm looking back on that December and I am thinking, I am so glad that I started it then. I am so glad that I scrambled the way that I scrambled so that I could make that first episode happen. I'm so glad that I started that. That's what I want for you. That in 3 years or 3.5 years or whatever, you look back and you're like, I am so glad I started. I'm so glad that I overcame my fear and my doubt and that I started on start week. I want that for you. So this week, start something, whatever it is on your heart. So coming from someone who has had a lot of starts, I encourage you to start. Don't wait. Don't wait for some arbitrary date. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for timing to be right. Don't wait for any of that. Make your start. Make your move. This is your time. I totally believe in you. And I totally love you. Bye for now.